Hi, my name is Jordan McNair, and this is my persuasive speech. I want you to think back to high school for a moment. Fun, right? You remember a good bit of information you learned, right? Now, specifically, I want you to think back to your high school PE class. Can you remember any one piece of information you learned from this class, other than how many boyfriends your best friend Becky had? Well, unfortunately, most people can't. As someone who has had a poor experience with high school PE herself, I'm aware from first-hand experience how dry and information lacking the class can be. Unfortunately, because of this, after I graduated and no longer participated in sports, I saw my health starting to decline rapidly. Lucky for me, though, I decided to take it upon myself to learn the information I needed to know in order to keep myself healthy. Saying this, most people in America don't do this. Most people don't even realize it's happening until health problems start occurring, and this is a very dangerous thing. In America today, we have many preventable problems concerning our health and wellness, such as obesity and disease. Saying this in this speech, I'm going to communicate one solution to America's health problems, and that solution is simply appropriate and adequate physical education for our youth. So to start off, let's talk about how a lack of good physical education can negatively impact our lives. Our physical education system tends to utilize activities that don't promote lifelong habits. This leads to sedentary behavior and health issues in our adult lives. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of people use the reason that they're scared to go to the gym simply because they don't know how to use the machines, or sometimes because they just have absolutely no idea what to even do when they get there. In fact, because of this, millions of people have been classified as being inactive. In the article titled Mapping the Prevalence of Physical Inactivity in the United States in 2016, Rupung An and his co-editors state that a substantial proportion of American adults remain physically inactive. Among the 50 states in the District of Columbia, 45 had over a fifth of their adult population without any leisure time physical activity, and 8 had over 30% without physical activity in 2015. So basically, his study proved that over a fifth of the population in almost every state were titled inactive. Saying this, activity is something that is crucial to our health, and inactivity can lead to preventable health problems in the future, such as diseases, psychological disorders, and obesity. For reference, in his book titled Predictive Factors, Health Risks, and Psychological Implication, Dr. Al-Khatib says that sedentary lifestyle and physical inactivity are causes of major health risks, including cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and cancer. Another health issue that is commonly seen from inactivity is psychological distress. For example, in the journal Women in Health, written in 2018, Vilija did a study on women who stayed physically inactive and noted their psychological differences. She said that leisure time physical inactivity was strongly associated with psychological distress, adjusting for age, workplace bullying, job demands, job control, social support at work, and traumatic life events in all 3 female-dominated occupations. Efforts to increase leisure time physical activity level in medical occupations could be beneficial, is what she said. So basically, she proved that the participants in her study had increased psychological distress because of inactivity. And lastly, obesity is another large problem due to inactivity. In fact, in the article titled Obesity in America in 2008, Dr. Charles Minifield said that recent data indicate that Americans are gaining weight at an alarming rate. In fact, data from the CDC indicate that the U.S. obesity average was 12% in 1990 and had grown to 23% by 2005. That is an alarming number, and a lot of the reason for that is inactivity. Unfortunately, because this increasing number of people with obesity, they become predisposed for many other health issues. In their 2018 article, Obesity, Pathophysiology, and Management, Dr. Gadd and her co-editors state, Despite our failure to contain the high prevalence of obesity, we now have a better understanding of its pathophysiology and how excess adiposity leads to type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and cardiovascular disease. So, in other words, obesity can lead people to preventable diseases, and this is through activity. So, we said that inactivity can be caused by an inadequate amount of proper physical education as a kid, right? Well, how do we fix that? We fix our physical education programs at local grade schools. So, the first thing we can do to fix our physical education departments in schools is by giving kids activities that promote good habits for their future. Agreeing with this, an article written in 2011 by the official Spark blog, a commonly used blog for schools, gives a tip on how to fix the activities chosen for PE classes. They said focus on a lifelong activities instead of team or individual sports. While weight training, running, yoga, aerobics, golf, frisbee, tennis, and softball may all be considered team and or individual sports, these activities tend to be carried over into adulthood more than other competitive sports like football, basketball, soccer, and track and field. Many kids participate in this during childhood and adolescence only. So, in other words, they think that kids should participate in activities they actually believe they'll carry into adulthood. Another important thing our physical education departments need to alter is the amount of time that allow students to engage in moderate to vigorous physical activity, or MVPA. In the article titled Strategies to Improve the Quality of Physical Education, written by the CDC in 2010, the editors state that 9 studies have been documented in typical PE classes that students engage in MVPA less than 50% of class time. Saying this, the HHS recommends more than 50% of that time. Therefore, the MVPA time is not adequate for most schools, and this needs to be fixed. Now, do some people say that physical education is not important and is taking away from time for more important areas in school? Of course. Do some people also think that future health problems cannot be solved through early childhood education? Yes. For example, in the article titled The Impact of Physical Education on Obesity Among Elementary School Children, written in 2013 by John Cawley and his co-editors, they state that despite the recommendations of the Surgeon General, CDC, and others, there's little evidence of a causal effect of PE on youth obesity. There are several reasons that additional PE may not lower weight or the risk of obesity. Saying this, in his article, Cawley did make some strong points on why physical education does not make a big difference regarding future health issues. Therefore, there's research that supports both sides of the argument, so ultimately it's your decision for which you believe. But what I want you to think about is what would you do and what would you want if it were your child? Would you want to risk it and settle for the poor physical education they're receiving now? Or would you want to take charge to ensure your child's health for their future? So, after all this, you learned about some major health problems in America and how to try and fix them through better childhood physical education. Saying this, I want you to think back to your high school PE class again and ask yourself what you would change. And once you've done that, I want you to take that idea and fight for it for the sake of our future generations. Thank you.